Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, it's the post-game pod for the Timberwolves' 24-point win in Game 2 over the Warriors. We'll talk about how the Timberwolves beat the Stephless Warriors and what was most encouraging about the closeout of the game. And it wasn't just getting a lead over 20+. There were a couple of real positive things to take moving forward to Game 3. It's all coming. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. The Timberwolves have tied their round 2 series against the Warriors at 1 game apiece, heading to Golden State for a Saturday evening matchup on ABC. Today's the post-game pod. We're going to break down what happened. Yes, the Warriors were without Steph Curry. There was an Anthony Edwards injury scare. There's a lot to talk about from this game, a lot of positivity that I'm taking from this one. And it's not simply that they won by 24. Like, it actually wasn't that big of a blowout. And that's not like where my positivity from this game is coming from. It's from how the way they went, the way they went about it after halftime. And some of the guys that have been really struggling over the last game and a half plus that played really well in the second half of this game as the Wolves put it away. So a lot to get to in this game or in this show here today. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. All right. So the Timberwolves ultimately win this game by 24 points. And, you know, if you're just box score watching, it looks like it's a wire-to-wire win. They were up 14 at the end of the first quarter. They were up 17 at halftime. But Golden State got it down to 7 in the third quarter. And it actually didn't feel like a super dominant Timberwolves performance despite the score. It was a bit more of a slog than that. And at the same time, I still feel pretty good about the Wolves coming out of this game. And sure, knowing that Steph Curry's not going to play in at least the next 2 games certainly helps that feeling. But the Timberwolves have had a handful of guys that have really struggled of late that played a lot better in this game, and especially in the second half. And so I like the fact that that is the taste in the mouths of those Wolves players, that they played well as the Wolves got this lead from 7 back up to 15, back up to 18, and then ultimately to 24 after garbage time was all said and done. I just think that there's real positivity to take from this one. I want to talk about what happened at the start of the game first. Minnesota came out on just a crazy run to open the game, and that they really never looked back. I mean, they never trailed. This is a wire-to-wire win for the Wolves. They were up 13-0 before the Warriors scored. They didn't score until the 7:04 mark of the first quarter, and that was off of a second chance opportunity, a kick out for an open Jimmy Butler line drive 3, as Jimmy likes to shoot his 3-point attempts. So nearly 5 minutes without a point for Golden State. Minnesota's defense was really, really good early. And obviously a Stephless Warriors team is going to be a toothless offense. That is the case. That's true. They scored 93 points. But still, holding an NBA team scoreless for 5 minutes is not an easy thing to do. And I thought Minnesota actually swarmed the ball really well. They rotated well. It might not have been to the level of what Golden State's game 1 defense was, but it was certainly better than what we've seen. It was certainly better than Golden State on this night, and better than what we've seen the Wolves do, at any other point in this series. That early first quarter, or I should say in this series, obviously, but even in some of that Lakers series, this looked like the Wolves defense we've been waiting for early in the game. The perimeter defense was good, solid switches, solid competitiveness, fighting through screens at times as well. We saw Rudy kind of lock down the paint, and it was I thought a bit of a subpar Rudy Gobert game, but and he didn't get credit with any blocks. I don't know how he didn't get credit with any blocks. I know he blocked at least a couple shots, at least got a piece of a couple of shots. He altered several shots. His presence really made a difference early in this game. And again, credit the Timberwolves on the perimeter. And I thought Stan Van Gundy made a important, albeit obvious point that with those Steph Curry on the floor, that means that Jaden McDaniels can guard Jimmy Butler. You don't have to have Ant guard Jimmy Butler. You don't have to, put Julius Randle and Jimmy Butler. Like it. he's the only guy you got to worry about. Buddy Hield, obviously, and I talked about this on yesterday's show. You can't let him go crazy, and he got free for a couple shots. He hit the three to drop the lead to 7 points in the third quarter. But for the most part, you're not worried about Buddy beating you off the dribble. You're not worried about Buddy. He was 1 of 5 on 2-point shots in this game. I think only one of his threes was off the dribble and not a catch and shoot three. You just got to chase him around screens and treat him, as I said yesterday on the show, basically Steph Curry ultra light, but still treat him like he's Steph Curry. The on-ball defense, you're worried about Jimmy. Now, Jimmy Butler didn't look like he was terribly interested in scoring in this game. I don't know how he ended up with 17 points on 13 shots because he really looked kind of disinterested, especially I think he had 3 points at halftime, maybe 5 points. He looked disinterested in trying to be the focal point of the offense and more concerned with distributing, but yet he ended up with just 4 assists and 2 turnovers in this game. It was a pretty pedestrian Jimmy Butler game, and Jaden bothered him early. I think maybe Jaden did block a shot off Jimmy in the post early in the game. Maybe that spooked him, the length of Jaden McDaniels, and Jimmy doesn't want to be physical like he used to be in his younger days. And he just didn't put forth the effort offensively for most of the game. And again, credit to Jaden McDaniels for that. I mean, Jaden was awesome. So anyway, the start of the game, really great for Minnesota. They go up 13-0 immediately. They expand the lead from 13 points to 17 points. They go up 29-12. Draymond hits a three just before the end of the quarter. The Wolves are up by 14 at the end of the first. And then in the second quarter, the offense stagnated a bit. I didn't think the defense was quite as locked in defensively. The bench was quite as locked in defensively as the starters were for Minnesota. And it took a minute. Nikhil actually, I thought, really had a rough first half. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, I had in my duds column. I thought he was having a horrific game. And then lo and behold, he ends up being really good in the second half. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But like the bench was not great in the second quarter. Minnesota still expanded the lead by 3. They're up by 17 at halftime. But it didn't feel like that. And of course, Anthony Edwards falls in a fast break opportunity, gets his ankle stepped on in the second quarter, goes to the locker room with like 6 minutes to play in the quarter. And it looked semi-serious, at least the lack of weight he was putting on it, walking back to the locker room. But if you're and I know Chris Finch said after the game he was genuinely worried about it. But Timberwolves fans, like, I know Wolves fans, their heart's in their throat when this happens. But I mean this. The Anthony Edwards phenomenon is so much like Kevin Garnett, where it's like he's bionic in these situations. I remember so many times with KG where he would roll his ankle and it seems like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. And he literally, you'd see him like tightening his shoelace. He wouldn't even go back to the locker room a lot of times. And he would just be back and he'd be just fine. And Ant usually goes back to the locker room and then he's back and he's just fine. Very rarely is Ant just out for the game. And I had a feeling he'd be fine after halftime, and he was. It took him a minute to get going offensively in the second half, and he was deferring more, I think, as he was getting back into the flow of the game. He missed a couple defensive assignments early in the third quarter. But like midway through the third on, Ant was awesome. And he played the whole third quarter and the first part of the fourth quarter before he took a short break in the middle of the fourth. Finch switched up the substitution pattern there a little bit after he only played half the second quarter, and the Wolves were trying to put the game away. And after that kind of midway point of the third, Ant was really, really good. And I thought it was the defense for Minnesota that kept them in the game, like late first quarter through the second quarter, through the Ant injury. And then again, early third, when Ant was not doing much and the Wolves defense kind of went away again, it got down to a 7-point game. The offense was sloppy. The transition offense was really bad for Minnesota. And then things kind of clicked in the third quarter and it felt like they were going to be all right. And they were. Again, I don't look at this and be like, oh man, 24-point win, like easy. No, that's not what this was. In fact, they struggled more than they should have early in the game. And despite the 17-point lead at halftime, it took a minute to really feel comfortable and to really feel like the Wolves are going to hold on and win this game, and credit them for the response after the Warriors push back. It helps that the Warriors just don't have any firepower. They don't have anybody to run the offense. If Draymond's not running the offense with no Steph, who's running the offense? There's no true point guard in the on the roster really for Golden State. So that's an issue for them. I want to talk about my biggest takeaways from the game. Now that we've talked game flow, the Wolves put it away really very early stage of the fourth quarter. is when it felt comfortable. I have 3 big takeaways from this one. We'll talk about some of the individual performances. Yes, we'll talk about the bench. We'll talk about Ant. We'll talk about some additional defensive notes that I have from this game. And we'll do all that here next. We'll close the show with individual studs and duds. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swish, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game that any player in the NBA drops 50 points in a playoff game. Terms apply. I don't know what your go-to move is after an epic game. I thought there was a shot Ant could go for 50 in this one after, Chris Finch called about post-game, and you just kind of felt like it was coming. And then, of course, he tweaks his ankle and it sets him back, makes that difficult to do. But after an epic 50-point game, what are you going to do? Maybe order wings, watch the highlights the next day. Maybe, I don't know, like whatever your go-to is, burgers, DoorDash has you covered. If you're a Dash Pass member. If you're not a Dash Pass member, consider it. You get $0 in delivery fees plus exclusive perks like this one. How much would you save over the course of a season of NBA basketball? So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and code WINGSTOP50. That's Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right. My biggest takeaways from this game. Let's start with the list of guys that seemingly figured it out. We'll start with Jaden McDaniels. And to be clear, Jaden has probably actually been the Timberwolves' most consistent player throughout the playoffs. We're what? Lakers game, so 7 games in. I know there were a couple kind of quiet games, like the closeout game against Lakers. Jaden was in foul trouble. But, Julius Randle in game 1 of both series has been bad. Ant has had a couple of rough games now. The shooting performances have been really rough. Jaden McDaniels had what? 8 points in game 2 against the Lakers, but he was pretty good defensively. And he had foul trouble in game 5 against the Lakers. But now he's played really well in every other game. You could make the argument he's been the Wolves' most consistently impactful player. And in this game, Jaden was steady when the Timberwolves offense was not. Timberwolves offense was the opposite of steady. It looked rocky, in fact. It looked wavy. Well, I guess would be the opposite of steady. It was a rough offensive kind of middle stretch of the game for Minnesota. And Jaden for the game had 16 points on 7 of 10 shooting and had 6 stocks, 3 blocks and 3 steals. I think the 3 blocks all came like in the first quarter and a half. And I thought he set the tone defensively. I talked already about how well he guarded Jimmy Butler. And he was fantastic. He was really good as a help defender. He had at least one of his blocks as a weak side help defender, kind of in semi-transition. And this was a really nice Jaden game. It was good to see him kind of continue to play well. For some of these other Wolves players that I want to mention, they haven't been playing well. Actually, I say that. Next, let's actually talk about Naz, who did play really well in game 1. He was actually the Wolves' best player in game 1. Naz was awesome in this game, too. I know he ultimately had 11 points on 4 of 10, but to see him stack consecutive games with multiple three-pointers, I think he also had 3 three-pointers made in game 1. He was 3 for 8 from 3 in this game. He had 5 assists and no turnovers, 11, 5, and 3 for Naz with 3 made threes. Nice to see another strong performance from him. But then you get into some of the guys who haven't been playing as well lately. Like Dante DiVincenzo is a really good example. And again, it wasn't a great shooting night for Dante, but and it hasn't been a good shooting playoffs. He's like basically 20% for the playoffs to this point. DiVincenzo's only reached double figures once so far across 7 playoff games, which is not at all what I was expecting for Dante in the playoffs. And of course, everybody remembers what he did for the Knicks last year. And DiVincenzo had 9 points in this game, 3 of 9 shooting, 3 of 8 outside the arc. He had 5 assists in this game. Just a really nice Dante game. From an activity level, He hit a 3 early. That was a nice catch and shoot 3, and hit a couple in the second half. And it was nice to see him, play well, especially as the Wolves kind of put stretched out the lead in the second half. And then lastly, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil finished with 20 points. I mentioned this earlier. Like, the second half was really good. And if you glance at the box score, you'd be like, he was one of the Wolves' best players. Not really. He was pretty bad in the first half on both ends of the floor. It was a really, really rough first half for Nickeil. So what I really liked about this, like my takeaway here after listing all these guys, is that these guys all now, the taste they have in their mouth, what they remember from this game is how well they played in the second half. That's the lasting impression. Like, and maybe this doesn't matter. It's not a back-to-back. They don't play tomorrow. But like, think about this. Buddy Hield, before Steve Kerr could take him off the floor, Buddy airballs a 3 from the right corner. And then after the Wolves score, the Warriors call timeout, he gets taken out of the game. That's the last thing Buddy Hield did on the floor. Nickeil Alexander-Walker played much better in the second half than the first half. It wasn't even close. Dante hit a couple of threes in the second half of this game. Anthony Edwards, who finished with 20 points on 13 shots, which is nice. And actually, the line isn't bad for Ant. He led the team in plus minus. We'll talk more about that. But he was, 7 points in the first half. I think 2 of 8 shooting. Left with the ankle injury. But instead, in the second half, he finishes strong. And that's what Ant has as the last thing he did in this game, was a really strong close. And I think there's some benefit to Minnesota having a positive taste in their mouth from the end of this game and from these guys all playing their best basketball right before they were taken off the floor in the second half. I actually think that could be helpful and bleed over into the next game. And maybe not, but it certainly beats the alternative. And it's encouraging because, again, at halftime, the Wolves were up 17, but I was sitting here thinking, I don't know, like Nickeil didn't play well. Ant didn't play well. Rudy didn't play well. They're just lucky the Warriors don't have anybody that can score. And Golden State was almost like the Wolves scored, 31 points in the first half of game 1. And Golden State was like on 27 until the last couple of minutes of the second quarter. It was kind of a late mad dash to get over that 30-point mark. They finished with 39 in the first half. So the Wolves were very fortunate to be up like they were at halftime. But so all that to say, it was encouraging to see these guys all put together strong second halves. And that makes me feel much more positive headed into the next game, because otherwise it was just kind of like, they backed into this one. I know they won by 24, but it was more about how bad the Warriors were than how good the Wolves were. And now it's both. Like, that is certainly still true. And nobody had like a complete great game. There's still an occasional, Gobert didn't play great. There's still a Mike Conley issue. Ant had a bad first half. Andy got hurt. Like, not all positives. But the way that they finished this game makes me feel a lot more positive headed into game 3 back in Golden State on Saturday night. I think it's big to have that be the last thing that happened is all these guys play better, and also some positive garbage time. Like Josh Minott, Leonard Miller, Terrence Shannon Jr. all scored a bucket. TJ Shannon continues to just look the part. I feel like there's got to be a way. I mean, like we talked about Nickeil, like Nickeil, Nas, Dontel played great. There's probably not room for a 9th guy in this rotation in the playoffs, but TJ Shannon, man, he's ready. He's ready to play a role. If it's 8 minutes a game, fine. But that dude is going to bring energy. He's going to play hard. He's going to knock down threes. He's going to try and dunk on somebody. He's going to get steal. He had 2 steals in 3 minutes of garbage time. And one of them was just a really nice play, just walling up and getting a steal on the perimeter. So all that to say, really strong, like lasting, this is what these guys are taking out of this game, is how they finished and how the Wolves finished. I want to talk about individual studs and duds and not really include any of the guys I just talked about. So we'll talk individual studs and duds, and that's how we'll close the show here today. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed, as easy as you stream your favorite TV shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. The latest technology will help you elevate your playing style as well. If you're a serious gamer, maybe you just care about having endless entertainment. That's more me. Like, I like playing video games, but I just like to be entertained. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribe services that include Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. We have all of those services, and you better believe we do watch all of them. If you're just a casual gamer, the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on Fire TV Stick 4K is awesome for you. Really, any level of gamer, it's just a great thing to have. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second gen, and Fire TV Cube third gen. All right, let's talk individual studs and duds. I thought the best player on the floor in this game for Minnesota was, once again, none other than Julius Randle. I know he wasn't in game one, but he's been the best player on the floor for the Wolves, I don't know, 2 or 3 times over 7 games, and he's been the second best player in probably the other games other than game one against the Lakers and probably game one of this series. He's been one of the, so I guess a better way to say that, he's been one of the Wolves' 2 best players, and maybe in these games, like full stop, one of the best 2 players on the floor in 5 of the other 7 games. Take out the game ones in each series. Julius had 24 points on 10 of 17 shooting, 1 of 4 on threes, 3 of 3 at the line, 11 assists, 7 rebounds in this game, and just 2 turnovers for Julius Randle, who's a plus 17 in 33 minutes. A very nice performance. Again, early in the game, first quarter, he kept the Wolves offense kind of afloat when Ant was struggling. They were struggling to knock down threes initially at the start of the game. It took until Nas subbed in 3-4 minutes in, a little earlier than normal. Both in the first and third quarters, we saw Nas earlier than normal because the Wolves offense was continuing to struggle, and he knocked down a big 3 to kind of break that seal early. But Julius, I thought him getting to his spots at 12, 14 feet and hitting those tough kind of side fadeaway jumpers that he shoots, those leaning jumpers, that was big. And it's not like how you draw up offense if you were just going to say, hey, like, it's not how you draw it up. Like, that's not, Chris Finch isn't calling for Julius Randle to do that, but that's just what Julius Randle does. And when things break down and the Wolves need a bucket, he's really good at it. And he's been so good so far in the playoffs. Again, 24 points, 11 assists, 7 boards, 24 points on 17 shots for Julius Randle. I thought Jaden McDaniels was, you could argue he was the best player on the floor for Minnesota. Again, the best 2 players, right? Julius is one of them. Jaden's the other one, in whatever order you want to rank them in. Jaden had 16 points on 7 of 10, 1 of 2 on threes, 1 of 2 at the line, only 2 rebounds, but he had 3 steals and 3 blocks in this game, was a plus 20 in 33 minutes. A very well-rounded Jaden McDaniels performance, did a little bit of everything, put the ball on the floor, had a nice spin move, spun to his left and hit a tough floater from 10, 12 feet. Had a couple nice pump fakes and drives from the corner, baseline drives, was active on the glass. I know he only had 2 rebounds, but he was in there mixing it up a little bit. Very impressive performance from Jaden. And again, like, if Jaden's putting up 16 on 10 shots and he has 6 stocks in the game, 3 steals and 3 blocks, Wolves are going to win a lot of games if that's the activity level that Jaden McDaniels is putting forth. My third stud, I actually think I'm going to go Ant. You could go Nas. I'm not going to go Nikhil because the first half was pretty bad, and he hit a couple of threes late that were just kind of like pushing this thing from 16 to 22 or whatever. I'm going to go Ant. Ant had 20 points on 13 shots. That's good. 2 of 4 on threes, 6 of 8 at the line, was aggressive going downhill, had a poor whistle early, and he missed a ton of 2s. He was 4 of 9 on 2-point shots, and for the second straight game, he was just missing layups that he normally makes. I don't want to say in his sleep because it's still been kind of a bit of a bugaboo for him, is being consistent at the rim, but just missing shots that he's no excuse missing. And he hit a really tough, this goes back to my point I made last segment about, leaving the taste in your mouth of having a strong close. He hit a tough kind of running layup with his left hand over a pair of defenders late in the game. I don't think it was an and one. And like, that was a much tougher shot than so many of these bunnies he's missed at the rim across the first 2 games of this series against Golden State. So really, I'm sure positive for him to see it go through. and a really nice close to the game for Anthony Edwards. 20 points on 13 shots, 9 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Only 1 turnover for Anthony Edwards. He actually played really well in this game overall. I mean, you'll take 29, 5, and 3 with 1 turnover. Yeah, take that. Duds, like I said, I had Nikhil written up at halftime as a clear dud. I don't really have any. Like, Rudy wasn't great. If I had to pick one, it's probably Rudy. I thought his defense, especially in the first half, was very good. But he had 5 points, 9 boards, no blocks, 3 turnovers for Rudy Gobert, led the team in turnovers. Conley was inactive, but he hit a 3 early in the game that was nice as the Wolves were building their 13-0 run, and then hit a 3 in the second half to kind of keep the Warriors at bay, which was nice too. Just 17 minutes played for Mike. And I feel like Chris Finch has pushed all the right buttons in the playoffs. Maybe he pushes it. Maybe he should push the TJ Shannon button a little bit more, but like the minute split is great. In this particular game, nobody played more than 34 minutes, and he had 6 guys that played between 26 and 34 minutes. I think he's been managing this extremely well. Okay. This is the last show of the week. Of course, the post-game pod was from last night. It's the episode before this in your audio feed. If you're listening to audio, if you're on YouTube, jump over to Locked On Sports Minnesota to watch Luke and Jack from last night. They'll be back on Saturday following Game 3 of Wolves Warriors. So if you missed it, or you just want to get your fix post-game Saturday, tune in on YouTube. Again, Locked On Sports Minnesota to get Jack and Luke, and that audio will be on this feed. I'll be back on I'll probably post the show late Sunday since the Wolves play Saturday night. So it'll post Sunday, but it'll be like afternoon, maybe early evening on Sunday. Will be Monday's show, and we'll kind of bridge the gap between Game 3 Saturday, Game 4 Monday. If the Wolves happen to lose Saturday with the Stephless Warriors team, yes, Game 4 becomes a must win. Even if they win, it's kind of still a must win because Steph's probably coming back for Game 5. Like, I think that's a fair thing to assume, and you really want to win all 3. Because then it becomes, if it's tied at 2 apiece, the Warriors' goal is just to make this 2 apiece going to Game 5, because then it becomes a 3-game series. Now, Minnesota, of course, would have Games 5 and 7 at home, but Golden State would feel really nice about this being a 3-game series at that point. So, goes without saying, the pressure is almost more on the Wolves at this point to win these games. All Golden State's got to do is split the next 2, and they feel pretty good. Minnesota's really got to win them both, because you don't want to go into a 3-game series with Steph back and healthy. And so big game Saturday night, of course. Okay. Really quick bow on this one. Key takeaways. The Wolves played much better in the second half than the first half. It's something you can take with you into the next game. Bench was great. Nas, DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker's second half, really good. Ant played better at the end. I thought I didn't get as much of the defense as I wanted to, but the defensive cohesion, the compete level in the first half, and then again, once they got past that hump, second quarter, early third quarter, late third quarter into the fourth quarter, the defense was much better. The activity level was much greater. The scramble from everybody, Ant was great, Jaden was great, guys getting in their stances, that all improved as the game wore on, and that's going to be huge on the road in Golden State, something to keep an eye out. Even with a Stephless team, you can't let these guys dribble, get to the basket, get open threes. And I thought for the most part, other than the second and then early third quarters, Minnesota was pretty good in that regard. All right, that's all we got for you today here on the show. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, it's free everywhere. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can also watch on YouTube and also on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder for your second listen, you can check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned here in about 6 weeks or so. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. The Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.